Hello, thank you for joining me again today to paint in watercolor, and today we're going to be painting a pebble painting like the pebble shore of the Murray River. I'm just taping down a half sheet of Hong watercolor paper. It's a really lovely surface to work on. Having said that, I haven't painted on the back of this paper as yet. So I don't know whether the back paints quite as well as the front because I haven't tested it. But, you know, if I'm lucky and my painting works out, I won't need to. I have a big scar on my arm here from having had a little bit of surgery. Just taping the outside edges. I tape half on the page and half off the page. Okay, what I'm going to begin with is an underpainting that is very, very cool. So the first thing I'm going to do is prepare my colours. I'm going to put down ultramarine and viridian. So I'm going to start right there. I'm going to use this stiff brush to re-wet paint on my palette. That way I don't ruin brushes that I have just by reactivating paint. And I need to be sure that I've got enough of the two colours that I'm going to use, which is viridian, that's what's in this well here. Let's get rid of that, and ultramarine. I'm going to put down a layer that's quite light in tone, and it's going to act as an underpainting. I'm just mixing up the ultramarine because I need to make sure I've got enough before committing to the paper. I don't want to be squeezing it out in the middle of my process. So what I'm going to do, because I'm not quite sure, it's pretty close, but I'm just going to squeeze out some more. So looking for my green. This is viridian green. It's a Holbein watercolor tube. Love Holbein. There it is there, my Holbein. And then the ultramarine. Well, normally I'd like to use Holbein's ultramarine, but I'm going to be using Schminky because, so I'm squeezing some extra out in the corner there so that some of the extra paint is available to me. So, lovely big cool background. I'm going to water generously. I'm spraying it on. Spray, spray, spray. Oh, there's a little bit of blue splattered over there. Splatter, splatter, splatter. It just slipped. I'm splattering that beautiful light spray all over it. Just re-wetting the edges. Spraying is done. Start with this ultramarine and put some lovely splatter down. And I'll put that one down, and then I'm going to grab another brush and load it up with this viridian and put a splatter down. Then I'm going to just see if I can get it all to move. I'm just using gravity. I'm going to make it move around. I need more water. More water, more water, more water. I don't want dots. I want these colours to merge. I don't mind a bit of texture on my underpainting. In fact, I quite like a bit of texture. But what I do want is for all the paint to mix and give me a beautiful, soft underpainting. just enjoying watching the paint flow at the moment. And so there's a predominance of colour in the centre. So I'm going to put some blue on now with my brush. That was enjoyable, but it's just taking a bit of time, and so I'm going to speed up the process by painting it on. Speeding it up there with blue, then come in with this beautiful Viridian, and then do the same thing, make it flow around water to make it move, and I'm just going backwards and forwards and making the paint flow all around. I've got big blue dotty bits here, so I might put some green on it over here. Just enjoying watching the paint move. It's a little bit dark there, so I'm going to tip it up this way and spray. Still just enjoying allowing the paint to move. I'm just turning it up from side to side, angle to angle. While right, so there's dark bits, and it's light in the centre, and I'd like a bit more tone in the centre, so I'm going to add bits with my brush, and same with the ultramarine. Add some bits. And again, make it flow. Don't know if I need more water. I'll just wait and see. In a moment I'm going to start to mop any excess, but for now I'm allowing all that water to just remain on my page so that I can move the paint around. Yeah, okay, now it's starting to meld and I'm getting a beautiful underpainting, big drips down the bottom. So I'll just put them back on the page, tipping it every which way. And right, and now it's time to start to mop. I'm going to get some tissues and I'm going to tip it on the side and start to mop it up. Oh, it's totally gotten under the tape. I can see it. I didn't run my finger over the tape enough. It's released. It's not sticking, and all the moisture's gotten under my tape on one side. Doesn't matter. I do like the tape because it provides me with an edge, but if I don't get an edge, doesn't matter. Because if you end up framing it, then the mat board can sit on top of the painting and create an edge. Just mopping and watching it. Right, I'm going to set this aside while I work on my thumbnail, and I'm going to put it on a strong angle so that I'll just sit here mopping for another minute. I'm going to put it on a strong angle so that any excess runs off. Alternatively, what I could do if I want it to remain on the page is dry it off like this. So maybe I'll do that because I really love what I've got there. Okay, I'm going to dry it. Okay, here's my source image. I'm just going to jot down a few things. So the first thing, this is, I'm going to call it Pebble Shore. Wawa, that's the name of the little country town on the banks of the Murray River. So our is Holbein's Viridian, really beautiful green, and it granulates so beautifully into all the little pockets on the paper that I'm painting on. The paper is Baohong, B-A-O-H-O-N-G, Baohong watercolor paper. It's cotton and very beautiful. The blue that I'm painting with is Schminky, and it's French ultramarine. Ultramarine, and that's the underpainting. So now it's drying, and the second step, while that's drying, I actually just dried it a lot with a hairdryer, but it's taken quite a while, so I'm just letting it dry a little further, just air drying, sitting there. So the next thing we want to do is work on our design. Are we going to copy this exactly? What colors are we going to include in the whole design? And I want to include some red or pink, because there's a beautiful pink pebble here. So this pebble here is quite pink and so pretty. I really, really want to include some of it. So the underpainting was green and blue, and then I'm going to be adding in later on some alizarin carmine for this beautiful pink hue. But I'll come back to that later. The next thing we need to establish is the thumbnail. We need to think about our design. For example, if I'm going for a not portrait, landscape orientation, so it's about those dimensions. And then I like this idea of this pink rock being included, and then there's this beautiful big rock up here, and I'm just putting in some of those beautiful big shapes. And then there's another one that comes in here, and there's a space, and that comes down there. This rock actually has beautiful stripes in it. There's clearly different types of rock within this beautiful pebble. I'll put in lots of little ones, but no need to draw them in for now. There's a beauty over here. There'll be a series of small-ish petals that lead over to this one there. There's one sitting on top up here, and it's just inside frame but goes off a little bit there and there. And this one sits on top of another one that's really huge. But the way I'm going to paint it is to keep them separate, and if I want to add in pebbles that appear on top of other pebbles, I'll include that later. So there's quite a large one that's, yeah, scrub that. I'm going to put it in now. There's a big one that's under it. I'll see how I go if I include it now. And then there's lots of them are actually bumping up against one another. Lots of them are laid one over the other. They're so beautiful in shape, and the colours all vary beautifully. Well, there's just lots. And then there's a large-ish one here that comes up and sort of sits over that one a bit. And then what I'm intending is that this will be quite dark. There'll be small ones in amongst the dark, but this will be much darker than the rest. I'm just going to make it darker again. Right. And this way I can have a little look at it and go, oh, do I like this design? And I'm quite happy with how this one is drawing focus by having dark either side of it. So I think that's what I'll do design-wise, is that one. So that's my thumbnail. So what I'm going to do next is draw it onto my paper, which I can see it off to the side is looking pretty wet still. I'll just show you. So when I touch it, it's still quite damp. Now if I were to draw on that, the pencil will really indent into the page. So I need to let that dry even further. I'm just going to see if I can make this stick down. The bottom edge has come away. The water has gotten under the tape and is stopping it from sticking. So I'm just going to run my fingernails on it. See if I can get contact back. See, I didn't press it down well enough at the beginning. Hopefully it's made good contact with the paper. We'll see what happens, but it's still too damp for me to draw on. So what I'm going to do is dry it again. Burnt sienna. This is Holbein's burnt sienna. So I'll add that to the list of colours. Colour-wise, just talk about the colours that I'm going to be using. If yellow's there, blue's there, and red's there. Yellow, blue, red. Burnt sienna is a mixture, and it's about there. And ultramarine, put a big UM for ultramarine. I'll just zoom in on that. So ultramarine and burnt sienna are opposites each other. So if you draw a line through the center of the color wheel, any color that is opposite is its complement, and you get a version of a complementary gray. And that's what I'm going to be mixing up with ultramarine and burnt sienna. So I'm going to use the same ultramarine that was on the underpainting and make up a beautiful grey for those rocks. But I want to include a red, and the red that I'm going to be including is alizarin carmine. I've got lots of it, so that's partly why I'm including it. So here's my burnt sienna. It's a Holbein burnt sienna, and it granulates. Having trouble getting that word out there. Granulates, which means it makes that beautiful texture on your page. And then that's my burnt sienna, and then I've got alizarin carmine. So I inherited all these tubes of alizarin carmine. Oh, not that one. Alizarin carmine. I'm just looking for which. This is brown madder alizarin from my father-in-law. He made. Here we go. This is a Winsor & Newton alizarin carmine. He made violins, and he was playing with varnishes, and I assume that that's why he had all these beautiful colours. So I've got some alizarin carmine, and I'm going to need more of my ultramarine. So I might just, oh, that lid is quite stiff. Squeeze out a little more ultramarine there. Can't have too much ultramarine. I've got plenty of viridian, So then I've got burnt sienna, ultramarine, viridian, and alizarin carmine. So these two are opposite each other, and these two are opposite each other. So viridian sits just there on the colour wheel. Red and green are opposite each other. Burnt sienna and ultramarine are opposite each other. That's my plan at the moment for what I hope will be the colours that I use. I will probably need, actually I'm going to add an extra one to that, and it's called raw sienna. So I'm going to use a Daniel Smith because I don't have the Holbein version of that. So raw sienna is, put RS there. Raw sienna is a more yellow version of burnt sienna. And that way I can put in some of these warm yellows that appear there. So that's my plan. There are my colours. I've got my design. So I'm going to check my painting again. Is it dry enough? And so step 4 will be to draw the design onto the paper, and step 5 will be splatter with masking fluid. And I'm going to be using a toothbrush for that. Splatter it all over the painting so that I get some lovely textures. Okay, here's the image that I'm working from, and my background, my underpainting has completely dried with the viridian and ultramarine, and now I'm ready to sketch up my design. And I've got my thumbnail prepared of which elements I'm going to be putting in the painting, and so I'm pretty much going to follow my thumbnail but also refer to the image as well for inspiration. I'll sketch it up and then I'll show you the end result, but you can see on the thumbnail here pretty much what it's going to look like. I'll just and in this section here, I'm going to put the little pink one . Okay, I'm pretty happy with my design. What I'm going to do now is splatter the rocks with some masking fluid. I'm going to avoid splattering the design parts in between because they're going to end up dark, so I don't really want masking fluid on them. So I'm going to get some pieces of paper and protect areas there, and protect around that rock there, and maybe protect in like that. Just get some more up there, like that. Maybe I'll protect some of this area here, and I'd like this to end up quite dark in there, so I'll get some more bits of paper there. Okay, that's enough protection. I'm using Holbein's masking fluid, so it's a removable masking fluid. It's got a little bit of pigment, so you give it a little shake. And I'm just using a piece of paper. You could put it in a container, and an old toothbrush. So I'm just going to pour some onto the paper. I'm going to turn that one over. There, that'll be all the masking fluid that I'll need. And then I'm going to dab lightly and just flick it around. It's hard to see because it's blue on blue green, but little tiny bits of masking fluid are little tiny dots. It's just such a good way to do it, to get little tiny flecks. If I end up putting too much on, it's really quite easy to cover. Put a few more on this little one there, and this big one, just a bit more. And that masking fluid is preserving all the little bits of green and blue that are on the existing pebbles. It's starting to dry on my finger there. It's very easy to remove. You could just peel it off. I'm going to get a tissue that's going to get it off really quickly. And I'm going to wash this old toothbrush. It's got like bits of masking fluid on it, so I need to wash that so I can reuse it. Take off my bits of masking, my stencils, and it's really hard to see, even for me, where it is. I wonder if I move it up to the camera, put it on an angle, if you can see some of the masking fluid. No, not really. Anyway, I'm going to let that dry, and then I'll start to come in with the next layers. Right, if you're still watching this video, that is awesome. It means that you are really a true lover of watercolor, and that you'd like to see how the next steps go with my painting of the river bed. Actually, it was the shore of the river. I stood there and looked down, standing on the shore of the Murray River, and I looked down and took this photo of the rocks. And it's got this pretty pink one, which I'm so keen to paint in this position. I've got the masking fluid on, it's lovely and it's dry. I've done my underpainting of the blue and green. It was phthalo blue and viridian green, and I'm so excited to get started to painting on the rocks themselves. And in fact, I'm going to start with I might start with one over here, and in the image it's got a lot of blue in it, but I'm going to make up this beautiful green, grey blue, and I want to put in some earthy colours underneath. Okay, I just went and got my thumbnail to remind me about my lights and darks, and also that I had decided to include raw sienna for all the warmish yellows that are in the rocks. Lots of them have, these rocks have a warmish yellow and then this cool blue grey as well. So I want to try and make that happen with these rocks. And yeah, so what I'm going to do is start over on this side. I often like to start on the side of the painting that's less important. This is the very important section, and I want to start painting over here. So I'm going to need some raw sienna and some burnt sienna. So I've got some colour on my palette here. Just going to grab my brush and have a little look. It's I bought it to act as a raw sienna, but it's actually a Daniel Smith colour called transparent oxide, I think. Transparent yellow oxide, yeah. It's very beautiful, and it's possible that if I use this, I may not need burnt sienna. So I'm just going to mix up a little bit of my ultramarine and mix it in to see if I can get a lovely cool grey. Huh, I totally can. I don't think I'm going to need burnt sienna as well. That's very cool. So yeah, right, okay. I'm going to start with this big rock over here. I'm going to paint each of the rocks with some water in the center, because a lot of them are curved like that. So I'm going to put a lighter side, and then I'll be putting the color around the outer side. So I need a big batch of this transparent yellow oxide. Yeah, here it is, transparent yellow oxide. So I'm going to squeeze some fresh paint out. It's going to make my job faster. Squeeze some of that. Oops. Out. And I'm probably going to need more of the ultramarine as well. And I've run out of Holbein ultramarine, so I'm using up this Schminky ultramarine. It is beautiful. I'm not going to use much of the phthalo blue, so that's going to be enough. I'm going to top up that green. That's my viridian green, just so that it's ready in case I want to dip into that. I've got this fabulous carmine, alizarin carmine over here. Ready. There's a fair bit there. I'll just squeeze out a tiny bit more, so that's ready. Right. And then I'm going to be putting down, I want to make up the grey that I was talking about a moment ago. I'm going to take a big blob of ultramarine, and I'm going to use a separate brush to grab a big daub of transparent yellow oxide, and then I'm going to mix them till I get a blue-grey that I like, that I think represents this beautiful blue-grey here. And that was fast. I might add the tiniest bit more blue. Right. Oh, it's got this fantastic texture on it, this particular stone. Okay, I'm going to make a lovely puddle. I'm going to go to my other larger brush. Okay, then I've got a puddle there of that one. A lot of water. I'm going to paint most of the rock and come in with this beautiful warm do some lines that do some painting strokes that represent the curve of the rock, and then put this grey over the top. Oh, it's a bit dark. I need a lighter version of that one. Adding stack more water to my grey, and I'm just going to go back, and so it's okay if it's really dark next to the other rock, because that's going to end up dark. And again, I'm going to put some strokes that suggest the curvature of the stone. There's a stroke, a couple more strokes there, and then I'm going to carefully paint the outside. I'm just going to break up that mass over there with a bit of colour, a bit of the warm. So I'm just going to watch it for a minute, and then when I think it's half dry, I'm going to spritz it and see if I get a bit more texture into that one. Right, so that's that rock there. This one is a lighter version of that. That's this big one here. So I'm going to do the same thing. Lots of water down. And it's quite an uneven edge, so I might exaggerate that as I paint it. And it's got all these beautiful lines in it that come over like that. So I'll just see if I can put that in. Oh, there's a straight line over there. I'm not going too straight because I'm thinking about exaggerating the edge, exaggerating the curve of the pebble. My paint's running out, so I'm just continuing to paint there. And then there's this little bits of soft grey that are sort of in between that. And there's that one there. Then I'm just going to get my water brush, remove the excess moisture. Let's just see if I can move the colour around. It's a little bit too, this line here needs to actually be straighter. It needs to be more like what it really is, which is a straight line. And there's a straight line there. They're not in grey. I'm just putting them in first in grey, and then I'm going to enhance them with the beautiful warm. There's one there. That's better. And so it's a much lighter in tone, this one. Now this, going back to this one here, it is now partially dry, so I'm going to spritz it, see if I can create some texture. It needs to be in that half dry state for that to work. I'm just watching it for a minute to see if, yep, it was too wet, so it hasn't had the impact I was hoping for. This one is very wet, so I'm not going to touch it. So next is this one here. It's got the same color set in it, so I'm going to paint this one next. There's water first, and then put down these. It's got these stripes of warmth that go this way. Just put the edge in there. And there's a beautiful hint of warmth up there, and on that edge. And on that edge, interestingly, and then I'm going to grab that grey, and there's a beautiful grey here, up there. And there's a, just give it a little grey on the side there. There's a grey bit over there. I'm just going to keep my eye on this one because I want to give it some more texture. If I can't spray it at the right time, I'll go and get some salt. Okay, that's two lovely. Are there more of those particular ones? Right, I'm going to do this big one here now. It's got lots of that raw sienna kind of colour in it. Water all over it. And then the beautiful raw sienna underpainting. Sienna, oops, went way outside the line there, doesn't matter. I'll correct that later if I still feel it needs it. Right, so now I'm going to put in little bits of the, it's kind of dotty. Just putting it all over the there. There's definitely some strokes that do this. Just doing some more contour painting, and it comes in like that too. There, and there's a beautiful darker section there, and I'm just going to go around the outside and add some grey into the mix. Okay, that's good. Right, is it half dry? I'm just going back to this one. I'm going to spray it over there first where it's lovely and dark. It's still too wet. It's not having the desired effect at all. Anyway, we've done this one, this one, this one. This one is really very yellow. There's almost no grey in that one, so I'll do that one next. Water, raw sienna, but it's kind of so got this little green tinge to it, so I'm going to put a green tinge into this one. Back to my raw sienna. I'll just complete painting that one. What's that one? That's the grey. It's got this tiny bit of grey in there, and I'll give it a grey side. Just go back to that green. Bit there, bit there. Just going to push green into the grey. Let's just move it around a little bit. Seriously, sorry about getting distracted there. I'm going to take a pipette with water and see if I can push. This is what I wanted to do, is make the paint push out. Because it's got all these kind of roundish markings all over it. So I'm just going to see whether the pipette will create a mottly effect. I'm after a lovely mottly effect. Push some into the dark bit there. It's just a wait and see over here. I'm just going to set that aside for now. Right, are there any more that are in this colour set? This one is totally raw sienna. Bit of water. And then I'm going to paint it. Raw sienna. Doesn't matter if I touch the other rocks. In fact, quite nice if they run into each other. Switch to water. And I'm just going to stick my brush into the grey and just add some little textural marks. and make it grey on that side. Grey on that side. Grey down there. Okay. This one is really, really blue. So I'll give it some water first. And then I'll start with the grey on the sides. Actually, that colour's pretty good. Grey on the sides. And I'm just going to use a small brush to use water. Move the paint around. Might see what phthalo blue does if I drop it in. Oh, I love what phthalo blue does chemically. It's fascinating. Maybe the model effect is still not happening on this rock over here, so I'm going to do it with phthalo. Yeah, that's pretty good. And that's the blue one. That's beautiful. This one is the palest grey blue. Put in a tiny bit of water. Tiny bit of grey on this one. And maybe a touch of green, just for the fun of it. I quite like the green I put into that one. Maybe I'll put a touch of green in that one. And I need to move that, don't I? Okay, what about this one over? Oh, it's brown, this could be. I think I will paint it with no water. Just get this shape. One, then this one over here. Oh, almost tempted to leave it unpainted because it's so pretty. So I think I'll just do a stack of water and teensiest bit of blue, teensiest bit of that grey. Touching that little one and let it run in, and it's got a hint of that warm there. And then this one's grey, water, grey on this side. grey over there, grey over here, and I reckon there's a hint of pink in it. Not that much. I'll go over to that yellow browny colour. It's better. This is great because I'm starting to play with the red. So I think for the red one, I think I'll put down a layer on that. Bit of water. That's got a bit of that yellow, warm yellow. And then I'm going to grab some of that red and push it. It's in this direction. The whole rock is this way. Just going to get some of that grey and put a stroke. Oh, it's just looking like blue now. Back to that. Pinky colour. And I think I will make those stripes a little more pronounced over the blue. Make that grey on the edge. Okay. I think I'll keep going. This one is incredibly pale. And a little bit of warmth, and then it's got a lot of that grey. Grey, and then it's got weird greeny tones in there. Definitely. There. Bits missing, that's good. Oh, this one's like granite over here. It's grey. Quite dark. Choose my grey. This one, it's got grey. And then bits of, it's really burnt sienna. It's definitely more of that red grey, so I'll drop teensy bits of red into that one. Just move them around with my warm yellow. red, and then oxide on the sides. Good, and then a little bit of grey up here. There. Grey there. Then what's next? Oh, there's a blue one there. Paint it blue, and then grab that grey and paint it grey. Now this one here is light. Put light on it. And dot red, green. There. What next? Oh, this one has this shape on it. It goes like that. That. One more. It's got the tintsiest bit of pink in there. And then I'm going to use little bits of grey in amongst that. Leaving little white bits shining through. This one here, I'm doing a similar way. It goes like that. And like that, and like that. It's kind of like doing contour painting. And then go over here. And it's got grey in between the bits. Just put the rest full of water. There. And this one has the hint of pink too. And then grey dots. Now, let's fill it in with water. Leave that. Then we've got some lilies. I'll do one in grey. Leave a little bit water. And then we've got these little ones. Oh, one is more sienna, and let's give it green. This one, that one, let's give it blue. And this one, we'll give it a small amount of There, not many more to go. And then I've got to paint the background. This is taking a long while. I'm going to have to give myself a break shortly. This one here I've invented. I can't make it the same as that. It'll look too matchy-matchy. So I'm going to start with water underneath. And give it round contour marks. Give it some green contour marks and some grey. There. Well, I think I'll do the same down there. That was just fun. Paint it on the grey and then dry brush. Nice quick way to get a tone down on it. And I'll do the same with this one, so it's going to be green. And neutralise that with the red. Finish with the water. And then over there, one of the earthy ones. Do a quickie earthy. Oh, that's how I'll get the texture on that one. Oh, and I've got a big one over here. Oh, it's very grey, rather flat. I'll only take a second. Not that one, that one there. It's pale as could be. Alright, I've done all my stones. I'm just going to put it on an angle so you can see what it's looking like so far. And what I'm going to do is the background now. So I'm going to give myself a break and come back and finish the background. So close. Hello again. We're up to the stage now where we're going to put the background in. So far we've painted the background, then masking fluid, then we've painted each of the rocks, and now we're up to putting in a lovely dark background. And I'm going to do that by making up a darker mix of the grey that I've been using, and I'm going to drop in other colours to that background as I go, because there are some little tiny pebbles that I'm going to try and indicate as I go along. But to start, I'm going to put in an all-over background using this grey here, but it's going to have more paint and no more water. So it will automatically go darker. Pick up more pure blue, more pure transparent yellow oxide, and I'm just going to check that it's dark It is getting there. More paint again. The colour is really good, but I need it to be even darker. Oh, it's getting lovely and sticky there. That beautiful paint. Right, is that... Oh, there was a big lump there on the side of the brush. Just keep mixing till that's dissolved evenly. That's beautiful, but I did like it a little more when it was on that less blue side, so I'm going to add more transparent oxide. And lovely. So I'm going to start, I think I'll start down here and work my way inwards. And I'm going to put in a little bit of water as I go so that I'll get a lovely variation in tone just automatically. And then it'll hit the water and create a range of tones. I'm going to have to redarken on the next layer, so I can be quite quick about this layer. Grab a bit more paint to go in amongst these rocks here. I don't have to be as careful as I'm being, but the sections I've painted I quite like. So I quite like the idea that I'll maintain them as they are. Right, more water so I can go out into this section here. Just while it's wet and I've thought of it, I think I'll drop in a touch of some other colours. Got this viridian sitting here, so I think I'll just liven up the areas a bit with a bit of green, maybe a little bit of red into that green, maybe a little bit of blue into there too, maybe some of the transparent oxide into that. Just trying to make it a little more interesting, that's all. So I've wet this area here, and I think I overdid it with my I'm taking my time with these shapes because they're quite satisfying, so I think that makes it worthwhile maintaining what I've drawn. Right, so I'll drop in these colours again, just to make the background a little interesting. A bit of blue, probably going over the top with the red. It just sort of dominates that colour. Okay, next section. We'll go up this way. It's really making those pebbles pop, that's for sure. Just dropping in other colours, and this time I'm doing phthalo, and I'll keep going up here. Dropping the colours again. Quite liking all that lovely wet in wet that's happening there. A little bit of, I'm varying the third colour. Might put in more of the ultramarine up there. There and there. There. I love working with shapes that are forgiving in this way, that it doesn't matter if you've kept to the original plan, it doesn't matter if you go outside the lines. I love that freedom to not be careful. Just deal with them while they're lovely and wet. Maybe the phthalo will have the biggest impact in those, but because they're tiny. And I'll continue this way. Oh, it's still wet for me, that's lovely. Got a lovely big batch there, so it's going to make it all the way to the other side. That phthalo pop. Back to the grey. Try a bit of dry brush over here just to kind of make this area a little different to the other areas. I can always paint over it if it doesn't look like little rocks like I'm hoping. Let me switch to this little brush. Oh, I might just, before doing that, drop in some other colour. Those wet bits while it's beautiful and wet. Go back to this central grey. Just to try and fit in those little bits here, and just leaving some little bits white, well not white, the underpainting. I think that's reading a little bit like it might be a batch of rocks, and then I'm on the home stretch, bit of water. Back to this larger brush. And then do the same thing with dropping in the colour. I want it dark in that corner though. A bit more paint. Try and leave those little bits. Okay, now I'm going to go back to the beginning and see. I want to now give the rocks a little bit more form. Oh, I can see it's very shiny, so I'll just turn it on the side. I need to give the rocks a bit of form. So that means that I could have done it as I was going along. But what I'm going to do instead is come back and add to each rock a light glaze of my mixture here. Now, what I'm going to do is move some of the mixture over here. Then add water to this mixture. And what I've got here is a light tone. I might make it a little bluer, as in phthalo blue, because it's a cooler blue. Well, cooler than ultramarine. It's a pure blue. And then each rock is going to get a bit of a side to it. And this one, for example, goes along like this. So that's its side. I'm going to make it less as I go over here. We'll see how that looks, if that's convincing. Oh, nice opportunity for dry brush. Come back and finish it off with dry brush and I'll get texture. Oh, that's nice. I'm taking off some of the masking fluid with just the action of my brush. Happy accident. And hopefully I'm giving that a little bit of form. Boy, do I need to wash that off. The masking fluid's dry though, so it's not going to attach to my brush. And then I need to do that on most of them. And I'm thinking mostly on the right hand side. Will I give it more of a shadow? I'm just going to use my flat brush to soften that out. And I've done that one. I'll do this one. Each side, but less on this side and more on that side. Just soften that out again. It's a dry brush that I'm softening it with. This one, I'll give it a bit of tone over here. The paper's quite damp, so, and I don't mind if it causes some backgrounds in any direction. This one, I like that dark over there. Oh, I forgot to paint that corner. Just go to this. Oh, I kept some of the dark mix. How marvellous. And just darken it a little. Back to my pale mix here. That's already got some. I did it at the time. A little bit on this edge. And soften it out with the dry brush. little bit more over there, eh? Soften out again, and a tiny bit on this side. That one, this little one. Every single rock is getting the same treatment. Oh, I've done that one. Right, it's very wet around that big one. I might go here first. That side and this side. Blend into the center. This one gets a little one and a big one across there. Little one, little one. Blend. I'm blending quite crudely because they've got a range of faceted edges, so hopefully it'll look textural. That's my hope anyway. So I'm giving it an all over glaze, and then I'm going to come back and add. Oh, that's my important one. I don't want to make it too dark too early. Okay, how's that? Oh, I've missed a few. There's this one and this one. Might make that darker, bigger, darker. I feel like I've missed. Oh, I think I might have missed that one. Too late to blend it out? Nope. Look at that. Dry brush. That one's a bit straight, isn't it? Oh, no, I haven't done that one. Okay. Big corner on it. Just blend that out as I go. And this edge will have a little smaller one. And again, I'll blend before I move on. Small edge over here. Small, small. And then I shall blend. Shall I? Blend. Alrighty, just lift it up so there's less glare for you to see how it's building at the moment. I've lost this rock, so I need to redefine it. I want to add more red to this rock here because I want it to be more of a focal point, but the amount of red I've got scattered and the amount of red here, I'm pretty satisfied with that. the edges of the rocks are starting to turn inward, so that's working reasonably. And a little bit more to go. I need to darken the side of this one way more. I'm enjoying this darkening here, but it's probably time to let it completely dry and take off the masking fluid, and then I can do the final adjustments for darks. Oh, so close. All right, thanks for tuning into this part as well. This is wonderful. Thanks, guys. Okay, I'm at the final stages of this painting I've been doing of the pebbles. And what I wanted to experiment with was how to make it look like there's little pockets that are poking above the water and that the rest is below. So what I've been using to make these white shapes here is a white watercolor pencil. This particular brand is Faber-Castell Albrecht Dürer. So what I've been doing is just drawing on some white watercolor, and then what I'm going to do, just leave that there in case you're interested in the brand. It's a bit shiny, but never mind. So then what I thought I would do is just take my flat brush and go around each of these drawn watercolor pencil drawn sectors and soften all the edges. And then I'm going to do it to each of the little round shapes. Just soften off. I'm just smoothing out the white. And this one as well. Just grabbing the white and pulling it out. Like so. There's plenty of water on my brush to do. There's this one down here. And I've got this big one up here as well. So I'm going to do that one. So I want everything within the circle to look crisp and crisper than everything else. And it's definitely creating some lovely little focal points, so that's quite lovely on the painting. Just soften out a little bit more over here. Okay, so close to being finished. I think what I need to do is just give it a tiny little bit of accent around these little areas. And I'm going to do that with a little bit of colour. So perhaps some of the blue. I'm just going to go to my palette here. It's reasonably dry, the colours on my palette, so I'm just wetting them with my brush. I've got just this tiny bit of blue, and I'm going to give it like a little accent of colour. Or possibly it's a little tiny shadow. Just giving it this tiny little pop of colour. And I'll just use my flat brush again to just tiny bit of blending, tiny bit of blending there. And then I'm going to repeat that little bit of blue on each of the little circles, or they're not circles, they're little kind of random shapes. And I'm doing it on the inside. Tiny bit of blending again, tiny little bit. Tiny bit of water, tiny bit of blue. Flat brush again. Just add that shadow back in. I blended a little too much there. And I might make this a little darker too. And do the same over to this big one. Just there. Tiny little accent around there. Right, I think that's about it. I'm just going to have a little look. Final, that's not too bad. These marks sticking out. It looks a little bit like they're above the water. If I'd planned them from the beginning, I might have done it a little differently. I think what I will do is, if it's dry enough, is re-add a little accent of white. I've over sharpened this white pencil and I think it's about to fall out. Just re-add that accent there. It's a little bit damp, so it's not going to add as a bright white. So I need to make some of these others less distinct and leave these more distinct. So I think I'll put a soft wash over some of the rocks that are showing as having hard edges. I think that might help. I'm just going to mix up a lovely pale wash of, got that little bit of phthalo blue, there's a little bit of ultramarine blue, there's a little bit over here of a bit more blue. I'm just gathering the blues basically, and I think I'll add more water, and then I've got this big lovely batch here of pale blue, and I think I'll just knock back some of the sharp edges of the rocks that are distinct, because if they're under the water they'd be less distinct. So I'm just going to do that, especially around my highlight. So does that appear to be, yeah, I think that's helping a little bit, so I think I'll just do a little more. Maybe, oh, there was a highlight there, I think I just painted over it. This one as well. Oops, lots of water I just picked up then. Just giving this pale wash around the highlights. They're sort of like highlights. They're the poking out bits of the water. Just give this little wash to everything. I'm really just using up bits of paint on my palette now. Lovely green over here, so I might use some of that next. I just want to push back any hard edges. I think that's working. That's a little better. Now they're reading as just that little bit lighter. I think that's just that little bit better. I'm going to add a little touch of green to this one here. And I reckon I'm just about to finish. That's just adding that little tiny suggestion that the rest are below the water. Just using green now, nothing else. And I'm going to say that I am done. I'm going to dry it, I'm going to sign it, I'm going to show it to you on an angle so there's no reflections. It'll be a little easier for you to see what it's like. I'm going to tip it on an angle because I've put on so much extra glaze that it's pooling just there. So I'll just tip it for a minute, and when it's dry, I'll add a picture to the end of the video so you can see the final dry result. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video at all, please give me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. And I'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Bye.